Hi y'all, welcome to the garden. It is really windy today, so I'm going to do probably a lot more showing than maybe talking, depending on how much the wind is blowing. But I got my bed edger in and I wanted to show you a little bit about this. So this isn't really like a review video because I just got it and I tested it yesterday. And so I haven't owned it very long, and full disclosure, this is not something that the average homeowner is going to purchase. It's meant for like lawn care companies or rental locations. So you can almost probably find this tool at most rental locations. I'm going to be using it so often and so frequently that I just decided to go ahead and purchase it. So it's by Brown. Let's take you over there and look at it right quick. So Brown makes a lot of agricultural type tools, and this is what it looks like. So it's a Honda engine. I picked the Honda model because Honda engines are really reliable. There's a Kohler version and a Kawasaki, so you can pick your engine model. And this is it right here. So it has this really heavy duty rubber to prevent rocks and stuff from being slung out from under the machine, but you can see I've been using it a little bit, and that is the thing that makes the edge. It's roughly 4 to 5 inches deep on this specific router, but you can buy tinier ones that trench up to 2 inches wide, which is great for irrigation. So that's what I'll be doing, and this model will go up to 9 inches deep for that trench, which is kind of like the perfect size for just irrigation that you're going to have blown out in our location over winter. So it's done a really good job so far. This one, if you're looking online between the models, this one's called the Bed Edger. They have one called the Trench Master that is a little cheaper and it looks exactly the same. The website isn't great at explaining the differences when I was going to try and pick one, because I'm like, they have the same specifications on every one of them. The Trench Master does not have like the steering that moves back and forth. It's just wheels that trenches, you know, in a straight line. This one has the ability to set it so it goes in a straight line, but the wheels also turn for you if you need to make tree rings or any of that other good stuff. So that's nice. I do have my safety glasses and my ear protection because it is pretty loud if you're doing it in the beds. And what I'm going to show you are the tree rings that I did yesterday. So I was really impressed with how good of a job it did. You can watch these videos online. A lot of the videos are older, and you can't really see how good of a job it did in the videos. But I'm going to show you these tree rings that I did yesterday. I started out further from the house so I could test it out, but this is what it did. It made this perfect little edge here, and it went all the way down. You can see I added some mulch on top of these beds. So I think you can buy up to a 6-inch depth. The standard one that comes on it is 4 to 5 inches, I think. They make 3, and I think they even make 2 inches. But if you're doing a natural edge like I am around these trees, I generally want them pretty deep to prevent the grass from growing in, and it makes it easier to clean up throughout the season with just weed eater or a string trimmer. Funny thing about this is it's made in Alabama, and when I called the company, I was like, there's that Alabama accent. A sweet lady answered the phone, and some nice gentleman helped me determine what the differences in these machines are before I ordered one. And today we're going to be trenching the flower bed I've been working on for the past few months. And so I've got this, as you know, in a pretty straight line. I don't have enough mulch to do this edge right here. I'm going to do that in spring, but for now I'm just going to cut a perfect edge down and make a swoop around. This machine is pretty easy to use. It's kind of heavy and requires, depending on your soil type, some pulling. You don't push it, which is nice, but you can see I'm going to straighten up this edge right here because that one's a little funky. And then I'm probably going to come through and put down some more of this contractor's paper and use what mulch I have left over to put it to bed for winter. I've got a little pile over there I can scrape down as I need it to fill in this spot. And I do have just a tiny little bit I can scrape around from the bulk mulch in the back and a few bags. And so I'm hoping I have enough to kind of finish up this little bed. It does create what's really nice, like super pulverized dirt, but the rubber siding helps keep it in place, and so you'll either need to remove that or scrape it around in the bed. I will probably scrape it around in the bed, although I don't want to ruin this nice mulch I have here. I'll kind of decide after that's done how I want to handle it. And depending on the depth, obviously, that you're going for your trench, you'll have more or less dirt to deal with when you're done. And then the edge will be really easy to maintain over winter or over summer by just using a string trimmer, and you can come back and do the edge a couple times a year if you want to. Now this machine, compared to the one I was originally going to buy, I don't think it's going to be as great at maintaining edges. I have a separate device that I can maintain edges with from Steel that I showed on my channel earlier this year. This one's good for primarily making those initial edges, and the reason why is because the wheel is outside of where the edge is made. So you can see here the edge is made on the inside of this and the wheel's on the outside. If you have an existing edge, then the wheel's going to want to fall into that trench, and it's going to make controlling this device pretty difficult due to its weight. There's an alternative out there that I originally was going to order, and then it was back ordered, called the Easy Trench, and it's useful because the wheel is on the inside and the edge maker is on the outside, which allows you to redefine existing beds. Brown does make a device called the Bed Redefiner. So I don't know, I may be looking at some different stuff next year, but that Steel tool that I have does a really nice job if you have a really nice edge to begin with. It was not intended to dig original edges, but primarily why I like this and why I wanted it is for I can also trench with it. So I'll be doing irrigation in the future, running drip lines. I can actually now run drip line under the ground from these beds to the trees that I planted last year. It'll allow me to get water very easily to the cut flower garden that I shot a video on last. And then I can trench all the way down the driveway to the front where there's a flower bed and where I'll start establishing beds in the future. So you can rent this locally for like $100 or so a day, plus or minus insurance if you decide to get it. And if you're a regular homeowner, that might be a really good option for you if you're making new beds, because it's pretty easy. So I brought my drone out. I'm going to do some overhead footage, and I'm also going to set this on the ground to show you how it's used, and that way you can see it make the trench, and I can see it make the trench as I drag it along, because it's pretty cool. You do want to be careful using this tool. Wear your protection ear, eye, long sleeve pants and long sleeve shirts, because it can, if you have gravelly soil, sling little rocks. That rubber thing is there primarily to prevent that, but it still could occur. Yesterday I had a tiny rock thrown up and hit my shoulder here. It didn't hurt because it was really tiny and pulverized, because this machine's really powerful, but just something to be aware of if you do rent it. All right, let's talk about results, because overall I think it did a pretty good job. I'm sorry, it's so windy today. I hope the drone footage was okay too. But you can see how nice it just kind of makes this edge here. See how deep it is here, how kind of smooth it is. Looking really good. Now this stuff is so powdery, which is good. I'm going to come through, instead of raking it into the bed and making a mess, I think I'm just going to go get a square inch shovel and put it into my gorilla cart and go dump it somewhere else on the property, because there's not a ton, and that will keep it from making too much more of a mess. Then I'll come through and put a little bit of that contractor's paper. You can see how I cleaned up that edge there, so I need some more contractor's paper here, and bring in a little bit of mulch. Now I'm pretty happy with the results. I mean, look how straight that is. That looks incredible. This area right here, I think needs a little more finessing, and maybe I can do that in the spring when I come back through. It needs to be out a little bit more. But that is really nitpicky, as I'm like a super perfectionist on some of these things. So overall, I'm liking it. Got a little space right here to walk through, enough to get the lawnmower through. This will probably be the kind of distance that I'm looking for between this tree here and the bed when it goes out from here. But that gives you an idea of how this machine works. I need to come out and finish doing these 2 trees. And I think I might do the ones up front that I planted in that little maple there, or I might wait till spring to do those. That way I can get started on the stuff in the back. Now, you pull this machine, and depending on your soil, we have not had any like a lot of rain here in a little bit, a good week or so, and so the soil is kind of dry. So that was pretty like fatiguing pulling all the way through. I don't know if I captured any on video, but I kind of stopped here a minute because my forearms were cramping, but it's still so much easier and quicker. I did that in like 10 minutes than hand trenching it all by hand. Now I just need to come through and clean up this soft powdery stuff that'll be easy to lift and rake in the additional mulch. I'm going to stop this video here, and I'll come back this afternoon after I finish that task and show you final results. Y'all, I'm done. It's been a couple hours later. What time is it? Yeah, well, maybe not, maybe an hour and a half or so. Seems longer than it was, because I was able to scrape like mulch from the bed and cover the contractor's paper that I put down. But it looks so much better, don't it? Look how nice that edge is. So I'll put a picture up on the screen of what I did for the contractor's paper. But before I did that, I went ahead and scooped off all that dirt, and I started hand shoveling it with a square like shovel, square end shovel. And then I got tired of that real quick because it was difficult with all these clumps of grass in there that's just kind of pulverized. So I've got this Sterilite container and literally scooped the soil that you saw in the video into it all the way down the trench. And then I came through and blew out the trench with my DeWalt 60-volt leaf blower, which I love. If you don't have one, add it to your holiday list. And then it was perfectly cleaned out all the way down. And so from there, I just put down the contractor's paper and scrape mulch. You can see where I scraped it out of the bed to cover the ends there. So this is looking so nice right now. I will come in the spring, like I said, and probably redefine this edge a little bit. I'm going to put the drone back up and give you a final picture here before the sun sets. It's getting later in the day there. And I don't really like how this ends up here. It's just kind of weirdly bunted into this rock. I might next year come through and rework this rock so it's twisted a little bit for more of a natural curve, because that's going to be hard to mow. When I'm designing my garden beds, one of the reasons you do like graceful, natural, slowly curving beds is because they're easy to mow around. But also it's much more pleasing to the eye. So to retain an edge like that, typically I will come through every time I mow and take the weed eater and just cut the grass along the edge at an angle. So cut the grass, like if this was the edge, you take the weed eater and turn the string and cut right along it to make a really nice edge. They also make those edgers, you can do like the plug up ones I've seen. They also have battery powered ones or gas powered ones that actually just clip the grass. They're not actually edging the dirt, and those work okay. Honestly, a weed eater, if you have one out and you're doing it, is just as fine. But having this finished makes me really happy. So that means this front garden bed is pretty much wrapped up for the year until spring. I got bulbs planted in it. I may come through, I got a few bags of mulch left and touch up some spots where I planted some things and the mulch is just kind of rubbed out of the way, or I might come through and just scratch around and kind of cover that up with the existing mulch in the bed just to top it off nicely. But this means I can turn my attention to the backyard. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me on this little video. I hope you found this video interesting and that you can rent this tool from Home Depot. Like I said, I'm really cognizant that this isn't a thing that everybody can purchase or should purchase. It's kind of would be a bit much for the average homeowner, but for you to know that it's out there, that you could rent it if you needed to create a whole new bed, or if you needed to refresh some spaces, or even if you needed to trench something yourself. You can buy or go rent it at probably sometimes they're at Home Depot, but if you have a local rental center, maybe ask them if they have one, and if they not, if you're going to be a frequent user of it, if they'd mind buying one, because they might be interested in that too. Thank you guys for following along, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care. Bye.